I'm just going to jump through what we did in class last time I saw you, just to make sure that we've got everything. All right, so we're on page 226, which is Theories of Depression, Psychological Explanation. There is the strange pictures of the green triangle. What type of person is the green triangle? We're going to leave that for now. Look at the PowerPoint on Google Classroom. I'm going to try and attach it to this as well. On there, it has a video link so that you can actually see this strange experiment happening, and then you can try and answer what type of person you think the green triangle is and the yellow circle and whatever else. All right, so if you remember, we looked at a cognitive approach. Okay, so we looked at the idea of faulty thinking. All right, so that idea that we are sometimes a glass half full person rather than a glass half empty person. Okay, now if we have that half empty thinking, then we have got faulty thinking. Okay, so if you look at our PowerPoints, we started off in our last lesson looking at the biological therapies review. I'm putting them on here again just very quickly so that you can make sure, if you're not certain, how they fit together. All right. Then the PowerPoint slide 6 goes on to cognitive explanations. Okay, this is that idea of faulty thinking. So I want you to have a go at trying to decide on what an irrational, depressed thought would be in the 3 scenarios that you have underneath. So you've got those different ideas. Okay, and then there are some suggested answers there. All right, now we also need to think about what a schema is. Can you remember what that is? All right, the problem is for somebody who is in a depressive state, it is that they will get a negative self-schema. All right, so they will interpret all information about themselves in a negative way. All right, so if I say, for example, I really enjoyed that party that I went to, and the person hearing me say that, who has a negative schema, thinks I wasn't at that party, that's why she enjoyed it. Right, so they are focusing everything onto them and then putting a negative spin onto it as well. All right, so just make sure you are clear that you know what schemas are. The stretch and challenge is then talking about Beck's negative triad. Okay, that is here again in the PowerPoint so that you can see it. Have a go at creating a negative triad of a person who has recently been made unemployed. Okay, so try putting in the words using the same idea from Beck's negative triad that you have there. Okay, so then we have this idea of attribution. Okay, so these are the causes of behaviour that somebody may have. All right, and you will see this in the video, yeah, with the green triangle. So we have different ones. We may blame ourselves. That is an internal attribution, and we all do it. It's my fault that happened. These people, don't like me, or whatever that may happen to be, because we're turning it all onto ourselves and making it our fault. Okay, we can have a stable attribution. So things like in the book, people will never like me again. Okay, so this is where we are thinking on a continuous line, nothing is going to change. And then we can have a global attribution, right? So everything I do goes wrong, right? We can't see a positive way of looking at how to move forward from that. And you can use the video to give you some ideas, of through the animation about attribution. Yeah. So do you look at the green triangle and think of them as what? All right. I've got some suggestions afterwards, like aggressive, irritable, ugly, that sort of thing. Okay, now these are what fits with this idea of your attributions. Okay, there are some questions for you to try so that you can make sure that you are understanding what attributions are. All right, and then then the PowerPoint is going into strengths and weaknesses of it, which we didn't look at. The last thing that we looked at was also to do with the influence of nurture. Okay, so we can often learn negativity and negative styles from people around us. All right, so it's a good idea. If you recall, I told you a story about somebody that I used to teach. It's not a story, it's true. And how she was in a very negative background at home, which led to self-harming. But since she moved away and went to university and met a lovely young man, she is now married, has a child, and is very happy. Okay, so we can learn those things, and our environment can make things worse. All right, so Martin Seligman demonstrated learned helplessness in a study using 3 groups of dogs. Okay, this is on page 227 of the book. Group 1, each dog was placed in a harness and later released. Group 2 and 3, each group 2 dog was placed in a harness with a group 3 dog. The dogs were given electric shocks, but only the group 2 dog could push a lever to stop the shock. Later, all the dogs were placed in a box where shocks were occasionally delivered, but they could easily escape by jumping over a partition. The group 1 and 2 dogs learned to do this, but most of the group 3 dogs didn't. These dogs just lay down passively and whined when they were shocked. They had previously learned that nothing they did had any effect on shocks. They had learned to be helpless. Okay, and we see this, don't we? There are certain people that we will look at and we will say they're always a victim in this situation, right? And that is to do with their attributes, their faulty thinking and their negative schemas looking at the world. All right, so an evaluation of this is, okay, there is a strength. And that is that there is research support for learned helplessness. So there is this research from Seligman that has demonstrated the process of learned helplessness, as he found that dogs no longer tried to escape electric shocks that they previously had no control over. Seligman claims that it is exactly this process that explains why some people become depressed. They have learned to react to challenge by giving up. Therefore, this research supports his explanation of depression in the dog's previous negative attributes caused them to give up. Okay, so here's that idea. And we know that, you know, there are some people who will go through life never facing challenges. They just give up as soon as something gets too hard. Okay. However, you know, we also know that if you have a positive schema, then you will be able to say, okay, this is hard, but I'm going to find somebody who can help me, somebody who can explain this to me, I'm going to practice this until I'm good at it. Yeah. Okay. Real world application. Another strength is that cognitive explanations lead to ways of treating depression. One way that depression is treated is by using cognitive behaviour therapy, which we're going to discuss soon. The basis of CBT is that people need to learn to think differently. If faulty, irrational thinking underlies depression, then learning to think rationally should help relieve depression. Therefore, the value of the cognitive explanation is that it leads to a very successful way to help people with depression. This is ultimately the ideal of any explanation. that it can suggest a way to improve our human world. And if we can do that without the use of chemical enhancement, then even better. Okay, their negative beliefs may be realistic. So one weakness is that negative beliefs may simply be realistic rather than depressing. There are occasions when life experiences are depressing and it is realistic to feel sad. A person with the opposite attributional style may have other problems because they are unrealistic in their understanding of a situation. Lauren Alloy and Lynn Abramson found that depressed people gave more accurate estimates of the likelihood of a disaster than normal people. Alloy and Abramson suggested that depressed people may be sadder but wiser. Therefore, a negative attributional style may actually be a more accurate way of looking at the world than the cognitive explanation suggests. Okay, so we are not saying you have to be positive all the time. Everything is always going to be perfect. We also have to be realistic when we are looking at these things. And so actually sometimes to see the negatives in things is not such a bad thing. Okay, look at the rest of the PowerPoint. All right, so it's asking you to explain the strengths or the limitations of the studies. And then there is a comparison so that you can see biological in comparison to cognitive. So I want you to compare between the two things that we've just been looking at. Okay, there is an exam question and writing frame for a 9-mark question. You know how to do a 9-marker. If you don't want to use the frame and you want to just try it for yourself, then have a go at doing that. Okay. I've also then put on there for you to complete Apply It concept and the Check It from page 227. Also have a go at doing the Apply It research from page 107 as revision for you. And look at the revision sheets from the revision textbook. Okay, finally, I put some challenge tasks on there. All right, I've been asking you to try and get some survey results together. I don't know whether that monkey survey was put together or not, but hopefully we can get some results together. Lucy, I'm looking to you when I say that because you were saying you would put the survey together. So let us know what you found out.